a good time. Put a smile on your face, yeah. KB Cam and Elation Radio. Even brighten your day and help you through the night. Bringing you good music. KB Cam and Elation Radio. And here's your host, KB Cam.
Just the way I walk, been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag. My Christ swag, yeah. Yeah, I'm from the streets. South of the arch, man, where I used to drink, roll up, and used to spark, man. Now I got my head straight, shining like $1 million. Christ elevated me, going past the ceiling, bruh. St. Louis fitted, God Squad t-shirt. Homie, how you doing? Pleased to meet you, this my rebirth. Addicted to the word, it's pumping through my artery. Faith on the meal, the swag is a part of me. Now my glow bright, soul's been redeemed, covered in the blood, no shower cause I'm clean. Done playing games, rid of the Xbox, almost flatline, but Christ made my chest pop, walked on the edge, the devil made me wobble. Jesus took the wheel, fast forward full throttle, still in the hood, got that street slang, mixed with the spirit, it's a G thing. Peep how I talk, just the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah.
God Squad, bruh.
Swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag,
Cardiac.
My Christ swag, yeah.
Look. My whole style come from Christ, yeah. So own it, no sir, you can't put a price. Like white on rice, I got his blood on me. To be honest, I just care about my guy, homie. And if I'm only living for him, it don't really even matter what y'all think of me. Opinions, you can let them be. I'm killing it, I let them see. The old me is gone. Keep the demons on my heart, then Christ found a home. No more Patron or nitrous. I might just give God a praise with my best. He's highest. Glory in here. Hallelujah, yes sir. Put my trust in the Lord. I ain't having no fear. No, I don't have a care. Besides pleasing my Father, tell any hater you see, man, don't even bother. Cause Jesus is my medicine. I ain't never hurting. Catching waves of his glory, man, I'm Christ swag surfing.
I talk, just the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag,
God Squad.
My Christ swag, yeah.
Okay, I get it from my father. Head to toe swinging on that word, that's the motto. Used to be a up or down flipper like the Lotto. Roll with big drinking ST, old squad though. Now I'm aiming at the world with that blessed scope. Hard repetition, stay flexing, holy rollers know. When you see that light shine, this ain't baby dough. He ain't got a VVS on him, what a freak show. No, but I'm close with my father though. I ain't Leroy, but the boy got a lot of glow. Took a whole lot of laying out to kill his ego. Missing my whole purpose like Shaq with them free throws. If you rap in vain, can't edify the people. Swag on 100, gaining speed, adios flow. And I'm top flow, reaching for his glory. You think I got some swag? Christ the one that poured it on me.
I talk, just the way I walk. Been set free, cause my father paid the cost. No, I'm not perfect, God just forgave me. Got a new swag, praising Christ like I'm crazy. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, okay. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag, yeah. My Christ swag, yeah. This my Christ swag. My Christ swag, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Hey. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. This is Sedric. Welcoming you back. Welcome you back to Elation Radio. This is Relentless Pursuit with Mr. Sedric and my partner of sorts, Jason. And I just want to welcome everybody back. Today is February the 17th, 2023. Black History Month is here at last. I know we're 17 days in, and I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about it. We're still going to be talking about our growth as black men or as people this year. But, you know, I wanted to just kind of pay a little tribute to Black History Month because, wow, where would we be without learning about our history and with everything going on in the news today? You know, you hear about book banning. You hear about different politicians saying, well, we can't teach this Black History course. We can't teach that course or this course. But we want other people not to feel guilty about what their ancestors did in the past. So I think Black History Month, personally, is a very important month. But I think that every day is Black History Day. But I don't mind, in my opinion, I'm not ashamed of having a month dedicated to learning new facts about Black History Month. So today I kind of just wanted to talk about the origins of Black History Month and also just Black History Month in general, what it means to me, what it might mean to you, just what it could mean to this country as a whole, and more importantly to people of color as a whole. And more importantly, black people as a whole, to learn what our contributions are to not just this country, but to the entire world. But we focus mainly on our contributions here in America. And it just, I don't know, for some reason, they want to hide it. I mean, this kind of goes with that saying where they say it was a saying that I heard, and I may not get it 100% correct, but contextually, I think I understand it. It said, if you ever wanted to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. And we know that saying, if you really think about it, the origins, well, there was a time when black people enslaved the Africans, African Americans, the American Negro, weren't even allowed to learn how to read. It was a crime to teach a black person to read or to write or to do any kind of mathematical problems or anything of that nature. So today, I just wanted to, just delve off into the topic a little bit. And before we get started, I want to bring on Jason. Jason, you out there with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine, brother.
How's your day going,
man, you know where I can't complain. I'm excited. Every day I'm excited, but I'm excited today for other reasons. And I will tell you, it's been good. It's been good. I have no real complaints. So, I don't even know where to start with our topic. I know we've been talking about growing up as men, being the best men we could be, especially as black men. This level of maturity and this growth. This road to growth that God has us on. But today, I just wanted to delve into the topic. I guess one might say it's the history of Black History Month, but I just want to talk about Black history as a whole. And it's just, I think it's just awesome that we get to even talk about this with everything that's going on in our society. So I guess I'll start out with a question for you. What does Black History Month mean to you?
I mean, growing up, it was a month that you learned about, the contributions of African Americans, especially to our United States, the foundations and some of the successes. That's what it meant to me as a kid, and now as an adult. I think it goes beyond just learning about what black men and black older, you start to see that we live in especially in America, we live in an environment and a culture that spends, 330 days, 11 months degrading the black man, right? All you see on TV is, black men killing each other, black men not doing the right thing. You just see constant media bombardment, and it takes a toll. So, for a month to be able to celebrate that and see the brighter side, I think it's a little start, right? I won't cheer too hard for the start, but it definitely gives you a reprieve from that bombardment you typically see, of Black America.
I like how you put that. You spend 335 days in a year berating or really diminishing the black community as a whole. And I like how you put that. That's interesting. I never thought about it like that. I will admit I never thought about it like that because, for me, the origins of black history, I started learning about black history when I was pretty young, and I've always been fascinated with the amount of progress in which I didn't always understand the progress, but the amount of progress that the black population in America has how do I say it? The increase, just the advantages. With all of the disadvantages, the community still stands strong. It still stands whole, being a very small segment of the population. Generally, the census will report that blacks are 12 to 13% of the U.S. population. And look at all of the credits to black inventors, lawyers, theologians, educators. I mean, the gambit is huge. But with that being said, I wanted to start with, basically, black history, where did it come from? Where did it come from? And I learned at a young age that there was a man, a black man, of course, Carter G. Woodson. He's said to be the father of black history, right? And he actually introduced it as, I believe, and any historian out there can correct me, but it started out as Negro Week, right? It was back during that time. And he kind of designed it around the famous men of that day. Of course, everybody understands W.B. Du Bois. And then also February was chosen in regards to a lot of W.B. Du Bois' birthday, and also there was some ties to Abraham Lincoln in that, right? And so it just, I've always thought about it. But the only problem I've ever had, and tell me if you have this problem as well, Jason, the issue that I've had when I've studied about Black History Month, I used to always say, why is it just 1 month? Why is it a particular month? Why do we have to designate Black History Month? Why can't we just learn about Black history in what we call our history classes in America? Has that ever just really crossed your mind?
It did, and it's interesting as well. As I was preparing for the lesson today, and they talked about Woodson, and if you understood what he really wanted, he wanted originally it was Black History Week. He actually wanted that to be a culmination of what you've learned the whole year. So he was more along the line of what you were thinking. Hey, let's learn about Black history throughout the whole year, and then in February or in that week, let's really showcase what we've learned, what we've been able to, the knowledge we've been able to accumulate. Unfortunately, as you see, we've gotten it down to we're only celebrating that week, and that knowledge and that learning isn't something that's done, across the year, right? Which is for the whole year, and then spend some time, just showcasing what you've learned, right? The definitely the benefits, the contributions. So many of them. To try to squeeze them all into 1 month is really a disservice, right? But it's kind of what we have.
Yeah. Also, and while you're talking, I hate to interrupt you. I did make one mistake. I said W.B. Du Bois. I apologize, but it was the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Fred Douglass, right? And so it was. And I'm sorry about that. Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, but I don't know. But you said something. Like, why do you think that there's an objection against teaching about Black history? Because I know that this this country, this world wouldn't be what it is without Black people. But I think that one of the reasons why a lot of people object to quote unquote Black history is that they prefer to, and the term that we use is whitewash everything. Like, it's as if the only real contributors to the history in America, to anything good in the world, have been white men. And when I look at it from that standpoint, I see why it was so important for Carter G. Woodson to create a week for Negro history, because and I believe he wanted it to be a serious week, a week where we took seriously the contribution of the enslaved African, the Black man in America. I think he wanted it to be a very serious learning, not just we're going to learn. There were Black people. Yeah, Black people made contributions. No, I think he really wanted us to learn about ourselves. I think he wanted to keep it out in front of us because, what's important about learning of your history, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, one of the most important things that you can gain from learning about your history, your origins, is this. You get to see people who look like you, who have done the things that other people tell you that you're incapable of doing. What do I mean by that? Right, like, have you ever heard of Thomas Fuller? Have you ever heard of Thomas Fuller? That you have? They called him the human calculator. And here's a guy who, I'm trying to remember the whole story, but here's a guy who was 14 years old when he was sold into slavery and brought to America, right? And this guy, as a slave, could do complex calculations in his head, and yet he could not read or write. Now, can you imagine? There's some stories about him that you can read about. There's one story that sticks out in my mind, is that he was, how do we say it? There was a series of questions that he was asked, right? He was asked about how many seconds there were in a year and a half. Right, and it says in the story that they gave him about 2 minutes. So in about 2 minutes, he figured out there was 47,304 seconds. Right, and then they asked him again how many seconds a man has lived who was 70 years old and 17 days and 12 hours. Right, so he was 70 years, 17 days, and 12 hours old. And they say he answered, the story goes that he answered in about a minute and a half, right? And it was something to the effect of, and I'm trying to remember this number because I had it written down, but I think it was 2,210,500,800 seconds. And then the next question they said he was asked, they said one gentleman, I'm going to actually read this one because I found it. They said one gentleman who employed himself with his pen in making these calculations told him he was wrong, and the sum was not so great. So in other words, there was a guy who was figuring the same problem out, but he was using a pen and paper. And the man said to him, he says, that your number is too big, so it's incorrect, right? And then they said that once he heard that, he replied, and he said, no, stop, master, right? He says, you forget the leap year. And then when the man with the pen and paper calculated the seconds with the leap year, they found that their numbers were the same. So here is a man that I never knew about as a kid who was a mathematician, but illiterate by every other standard in what we call life, in our education, because he couldn't read, he couldn't write, but he was a genius with numbers. And I think it's important for our kids to learn about people like himself. You talk about disadvantage. He was a slave. As a matter of fact, he was sold into slavery when he was 14 years old. And I think that with someone like Carter G. Woodson introducing Negro History Week into our curriculum, I think what the effect that it has on me is that I feel like it made you proud to be who you were. You know, it was an honor to learn that, you know what, just because this is where I am today doesn't mean this is where I'm going to be tomorrow. So I think that Black History Month is extremely important for our children. I think that we need it, but I do believe, and my hope and my prayer is one day it won't just be a month. You know what I mean?
And I think you hit on something, right? The importance of Black History Month. I think, there is something to be said about the level of esteem that's gained when you see that person that looks like you celebrated. It's interesting. I will tell you, growing up, anytime there was talks about slavery and the slaves, even though I've never been a slave in my life, and I am like hundreds of years, not hundreds, but I'm many years removed from that. I will tell you, when they put those pictures on the screen and you saw those people and how they were looked and how they were being portrayed, because they looked like me, I actually felt a sense of shame and embarrassment with it, right? And to think about that throughout most times in our history, most times in our lessons, this is what we're learning. This is what we're seeing, repeatedly over and over again. It can affect the esteem of those students, and I'll tell you, it affected mine. So to have a month where you didn't get to see the successes, and how people, that look like me were successful in their endeavors, and they were people that folks looked up to, it did help erode some of that negative esteem that was created through the study of the other parts of history.
Yeah, absolutely, because that is crazy. I got a question on that. Again, like with the origins of Black History Month, did you know that every year we have a different theme to Black History Month?
Oh, I did not.
You did not know that? Well, this is something that I find that very few of us really realize that there's a theme to Black History Month, and it's a new theme every year. Like, for instance, this year, and I find it ironic that this year the theme for Black History Month is Black resistance. Yeah. It's the theme is Black resistance. Like when you hear that, I mean, does that make you think? I mean, like knowing that there are themes? Because I think in 2022, I have to actually look it up. But last year's theme, it was. You know what? I'm gonna look it up as we talk. But last year's theme was definitely something different. But this year is Black resistance. Oh, last year was Black health and wellness. That's what it was. But this year we're talking about Black resistance. What are we resisting? Resistant to what? And again, I like to talk about things like this, Jason, because some of our younger generation, they don't even know this. Like, they're not being taught this even in schools. Like when you go into places like Florida, Texas, heck, we're right here in the heart of the mess. That they're so busy trying to stifle or suppress the knowledge that we have of ourselves. And you know what? And I don't even think that their suppression is just to keep us blind to our history, to not allow children of color to learn about their ancestors. But I think part of it is as they say, well, I don't want my young not black, my white child feeling bad. My child shouldn't be made to feel bad because of what his or her ancestors have done. Well, maybe one of the reasons why they keep wanting to do that is because they don't want their kids to believe and understand that and know that they are not superior to anybody else. As a matter of fact, we're all equal. We're all equal parts human being. We're all equal parts children of God. No one is greater than the next. And I think that part of the problem in our society is that we want to create this caste system. I'm reading a book right now, and that's what it's called, Caste. And this book, it's by Isabel Wilkerson. It's the Origins of Our Discontent. It's called Caste, and heard about this book originally through Oprah's book club. Yes, I pay attention to that kind of stuff. Y'all don't get mad at me, but I do. It's not just for old white women and black women. It's for black men too. I'm just being funny. But you know, it's the way our system was put together, and I think that that's one of the big reasons why a lot of people, or there is a resistance towards learning about the true history in America, and that just bothers me.
I think when you think about it, right? If you think about some of the movements that happened, they came when people, you know, felt like, hey, you know what? I need to be treated better than this. When the esteem of people got uplifted to the point where they looked at what their current circumstance, they're like, you know what? No, I don't. You know, I know this is not right for me, right? This is not a situation that I should be in. And to your point, as you learn, it's interesting, right? That you know, when you hear about people learning about our full history, right? I am a proponent of knowledge and information. Give me all the information and let me make a educated decision, right? The way we teach history today, we give this one-sided view of our founding fathers, the things that they did, and we don't paint the atrocities. We don't paint the oppression, or we gloss over it and look at it as a means to an end, and we don't see how, like, even after those atrocious acts that founded the country, how they continue even after that. So people are gaining a pride, I would say a false pride in the country, right? You know, and you know, when you hear people who, especially proponents of some of these expanded histories that we're trying to teach, they're almost like, to your point, you say whitewash. I say they want to keep it clean because they don't want people to face the reality of, like, man, this country was built on the backs of oppression of so many people, right? And not just built, but maintained, right? You know, we don't speak about how communities begin to thrive, you know, even once slavery ended, and then systems came in and destroyed those communities that were thriving only because they were communities of color, right? You know, we don't hear about that. You know, and you know, everybody talk about, I want to be proud of America, and I think America is the best country to live in, but it's, you got to face the warts too, right? And that's my problem with the way we're doing history nowadays, is that we don't want to see the warts. We just want to see beautiful America, whitewashed, cleaned up, and then pretend like everything is great. And the biggest challenge there is that, you know, and I'll tell people, right, there are two different experiences living in America, and you may fool yourself to think they're not, but there is. And when you don't allow that knowledge to come out, that experience that someone else is feeling, you know, dealing in this country, is one that it makes it hard to relate, to really kind of get on the same page and empathize with that person, right? So, yeah. I mean, you know, like I said, it's interesting when you hear people talk about, I don't want my little Johnny to feel bad about his ancestors. Well, what about, as a kid, I felt bad about what my ancestors went through, right? If I sat in those classrooms and saw those slaves, how it made me feel lesser than in that moment. right? And I think we forget about that, or we don't really even talk about that. We don't talk about,
right.
how when we see these things, these different books, these different movies about the treatment of the black man, how it actually traumatizes us sometimes to look at that and to see it as young people, and then to grow up each and every year looking at that, seeing that, and then, ultimately affecting the esteem we have of ourselves.
I got a question for you. What made you feel worse? Or what actually got more feeling from you? Was it the fact that you saw the happenings in history books about slavery? Or is it the fact that you became a man, you went to college, and you found out there's so much they're not teaching us about our own people in school?
I will tell you, for me, it was something a little bit different, right? It was, as you saw how those people were treated back in the day, and a certain part of you felt like I'm still being treated like that today, right? And instead of, and as a young person, instead of blaming the system that allowed that to continue, you start thinking there's something wrong with me, right? It's just like it's just any kid, right? When kids get made fun of, they don't blame the person making fun of them. They think something's wrong with me, right? Oh, you know what? I'm a little bit taller than my friends. My friends making fun of me. Well, why do I got to be so tall? Well, no, being tall is a blessing. But unfortunately, the system is telling you something different. And as a small child, sometimes it's hard to understand that. So for me, I felt it early on, like middle school, going into high school. When we talked about slavery, and to this day, I find it hard to watch some of those historical depictions of how slaves were treated, not just because of how bad they were treated, but it actually affects me internally, where I'm like, man, it makes me question who I am and how I see myself.
So it kind of make you feel like what these other people say, they don't want their little Johnny or little Mary to feel like.
Right.
So it kind of makes you think, it kind of makes you think that it's okay for my kids to feel like that, but we don't want yours to feel like that.
Almost. Yeah. Not even almost, exactly.
And that's the crazy about the world we live in. Like when I go back through history and back when I was a kid, I used to want to be an attorney, and there was an attorney, and I believe he was the very first person, the first black man to become an attorney, and his name was John Mercer Langston. And we're talking the 1800s. I believe it was 1854. So I, as a kid, my parents didn't have much money, right? So they bought us these encyclopedias, and then there's like this one huge 1,000+ page encyclopedia that had all these facts about Black history in America. And then we had these smaller little, I think it was about a total of 12 books. And my parents, they didn't have the money to get it, so they bought it over time, paid too much for it and all that. But I learned so much by reading those books. Like when I would be under punishment, I would sit back and I was introduced to Langston Hughes. I was introduced to the Harlem Renaissance. You know what I'm saying? I got to read about all the activists, not all, but a lot of activists that they were putting in our books. Like I as a young kid, I got to read about the real Rosa Parks, not the Rosa Parks who they said sat down on the bus because she was tired. She was tired, but she wasn't so much that she was physically tired. She was sick and tired of being sick and tired, So I got all of that. I got the civil rights movement. And I tell you what, if it weren't for Black History Month, I don't think that mentally I would have really been concentrating on it. I don't think I would have been intentional about learning about Black history had it not been for Black History Month. Black History Month for me has meant so much over the years because as a kid, I was that, and Jason, I don't know if you were like this, but I got a feeling that you and I shared the same experience in this regard where people said, well, he's so well behaved. Oh, he's so mannerable. Oh, he's so intelligent. And all the while there's this underlying thing. It was he's so intelligent for a black kid. Oh, he's so mannerable for a black kid. Oh, he's so well dressed for a black kid. Yeah, I'm sorry, say that again.
He speaks well. Oh, you speak real well. Mm-hmm.
For a black kid, right? And those were the kinds of things that really got under my skin. Like that's what I call that overt racism. That's that racism that they're not saying is racist, but it really is racist because of the way they're saying it, and their intentions may not be to harm me, but their culture is to oppress me. Don't get me. I'm not gonna get started today, Jason. But so the individual person is saying, "Oh, that's great for a black kid," as if I were white, it would just be an everyday occurrence. I wouldn't be so smart. And so Black History Month has, as a kid, it opened my eyes. It opened up my senses to these types of things. Now, it didn't make me prejudiced or racist. What it made me do was it made me aware. And I want to tell people, one of the reasons we have Black History Month is our awareness. We need to be more aware of not just who we are, not just where we come from, but look, if you understand where you come from, you can better understand where it is you're going. Am I right? Have you ever thought about it like that?
Oh, yeah. You know, what they always say, people who don't understand their history are doomed to repeat it.
History is definitely doomed to repeat itself. And what's going on right now in this world that we live in? What's going on right now? They're trying to repeat the same stuff. We're basically going right back down that Nazi rabbit hole. The difference today, I believe, the difference in what they're trying to do today and yesteryear is that there are some people who are, I'm going to hit you with this ugly word, there are some people who are woke to this crazy ideology that's being spewed out here. And it's so funny that this ideology is being espoused by a small minority of this country. And yet, we have millions and millions and millions of people jumping on that bandwagon. Isn't that crazy?
The thing about it is, I believe that there's a greater minority that believes it, but only a few of them will say it. Right? I've always believed that. I believe that most of these, what we call these extreme thoughts and views and prejudices, I can't say everybody has them, but they lean more toward them than they do against them. And it's only been when it's become okay are people piling on. So I am not shocked to see this because, you know, and you and I well most know, let me go into a mall on any given day and how am I treated differently from the next person, you know? And it's always been that way. The only difference now is people are more out to say it instead of hide behind, you know, misunderstandings and the other things they did. So, no, I to a certain degree, I'm not shocked or surprised because this is what the country really is, right?
Yes.
You know, and you know, you think about the you know, when they talk about systemic racism, and although I may not say there's a systemic racism, there is something in the system that promotes, that actually denigrates one race of people. And that race of people is constantly in everything that we see, right? Like to your point, oh my God, you talk really well for a black person, right? Oh, look what he's done with himself, you know. We talk about this all the time, how you see, you know, when you watch the news and our media, how anybody creating any violent act being created by black men, or you know, they're all over the news, but you don't see that, right? You know, you don't see that depiction when it's something else, right? You know, you see blurred faces or alleged, you you see things like that, little subtle things like that really can that really kind of shows that there's something in the system that really denigrates, you know, the black man in America, right? So, you know, so we think about something like Black History Month. You know, I think we should ultimately get back to why it was in the first place. month of February should be a celebration and a showcase of something we learn every day. And you started this journey earlier talking about this should be something we talk about every day, that we're experiencing every day, that we're learning about every day, right? It's something that should be part of our normal curriculum. Real quick, I was a couple years ago when we were going through the George Floyd, and there was a big awareness about how black people are being treated in America. I got an opportunity to be part of this. It was kind of like a session, and one of the guys who spoke, he really spoke about history and how there are so many things outside of America that black people have done that we don't teach our kids, and in not teaching our kids those things, you see. He talked about how the kids don't grow up with that same level of esteem. And he was actually challenging our educational system to say, why don't we teach more of those things? And why? And even if our educational system don't do it, why aren't we doing it ourselves? Where every day we're talking about, like, you know what? Yeah, you might see one or two exceptions to appropriate behavior, but let me tell you about the great thing that black men have done throughout time, and they're doing today. And it was something that really just really resonated with me. I'm like, you know what? Why don't we study that in history, right? Why are we spending? Why are we not celebrating the black man and everything that we've accomplished over time, and everything that we've done, not just in America but across this whole world?
Man, it's funny you mentioned the whole world. Did you know that Canada and England both have Black History Month? They celebrate Black History Month. Did you know that?
Right. Yeah, I did actually. When I said it, I think I was able to read that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And the thing about Black history that gets me is that when you really delve into Black history, you realize that there's so many everyday occurrences that Black people had a hand in creating or created, right? That it's just impossible to understand why we don't teach history in our schools. Why are we teaching his story? Why is it the story that we're teaching is, how they say, to the victor go the spoils? Well, that's really how history is written. You know what I mean? It's like they change it. Whoever wins the battle, whoever wins the war gets to write the narrative. And then what we don't learn today, like, here's a for instance. The big push in schools where we want parents to have a say-so on what their kids are learning. Am I right? That's the big push, right? Then why we ain't got more Black history in schools? Because we got a lot of parents who want their kids to learn Black history. But when it comes to Black history, it's like we're teaching, I don't know, like it's all about pornography. You know what I mean? Like why are we keeping true history out of our history classes? When you go in, you go to the Library of Congress, and we used to go on field trips in school. Rarely did we go and visit a Black History museum. I remember when the African American Museum opened at the Fair Park in Dallas, South Dallas, surrounded by all these Black schools because it was a Black community. I don't remember. I used to go to this school I only went there for a few months, but it's called John Henry Brown, and the school is still there. I don't know if the name is still the same. That school ain't a mile away from the Fair Park. I don't remember ever walking, riding a bus to that museum, which is just right down the street. And it's a straight shot. Right down the street. It's called Grand. It is straight down Grand. I mean, there are no turns. You run right into the Fair Park. I don't remember us ever going there. And why aren't we teaching this? I mean, there's so many, man, like you hear about Langston Hughes And most people they don't even know Carter G. Woodson. They just know a couple of his sayings, but they don't know anything about him. They don't know he's considered the father of Black history. They don't know anything about him. And there's so many notables. I mean, like Nat King Cole. You know, people don't know who it is, right? Man, here's one I know you know. You know, people laugh at me because I like the rap from the 1980s. I can go a little bit back into the 70s, but the Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. That was the first, I guess they would call it successful rap song or record. You know, we had records back then. I think in the industry, you know, we don't get into these little known facts. And you know what really makes me think, Jason?
Mm-hmm.
What really makes me think is this right here. Like rap. I remember when rap was coming up, the days of Run DMC, one of my favorite rap groups of all time, me personally, Houdini, the Great, and Equality. But anyway, I'll keep going. And you know, when they wanted to label that stuff just basically street talk, like they didn't really want us to listen to it. But fast forward 40 years, and every other rapper you hear about, you see about, is not even Black. Only through the hard work and perseverance and ingenuity of our people has rap music, quote unquote, now called hip hop music. And ain't it funny how rap got a new name once it what's the word I'm looking for? Once it went mainstream, how all of a sudden it was called hip hop. Oh, it's a blend of pop culture and okay, whatever. But that's the way I always looked at it. But isn't it amazing that it had to blend with white culture in order to truly be accepted worldwide or to be accepted by all of our public? Ain't that crazy? All right, here's another for instance. I love music. I can talk music all day. Again, Black History Month, we're talking about music. Man, one of the most favorite genres of music that you could ever hear is country music, right? How many people know and understand that ain't something that white America came up with? Okay? All right, don't get me started. Plucking on a banjo or even on a guitar. That's not something that a white man came up with. Like, I believe it was Johnny Cash, country music singer. He was known for his playing skills. Even he'll tell you, he didn't learn that from a white man. No, he didn't. And like, so Black history is woven into the fabric of everything American. And I say that I like to bring those kind of points out because, again, you cannot have American history without Black history. I argue that all day, every day. You cannot. You don't believe me? The Civil War. People don't know it, but 10% of the Union troops were Black. They were a colored regiment. They were Black men. But you don't see that a lot. Not until the movie Glory did they even publicize that mainstream that Black men actually fought in the Civil War. As a matter of fact, let's go on down to the South. They would want you to believe in the South that there were many Black slaves who joined the Confederate Army and fought for Massa. I ain't saying it might not have been one or two, but there are no real history facts that actually say that. Nobody has, over the years, been able to show me a legitimate source that says that the African slaves fought on the side of the Confederacy in any kind of real number. And that's why Black History Month is important. You know, I mean, think about this. I'm going to jump up into the 1980s because I jump around with my facts because the way my head is, right? Think about this. In 1981, Bryant Gumbel was the first Black person to host a network morning show. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
That was the year I turned 11 years old. Bryant Gumbel. Is that the same Brian Gumble that we see on TV from time to time? Yeah, it is the same one. And so, so Black history is really important. When you go back and you look in the origins and you find Nat King Cole. And Nat King Cole, I thought that was the smoothest brother ever, right? I mean, of course, he was long gone by the time I was born. But when I would see those old shows of him, like they have the commercials and he's singing Unforgettable. I don't want to get me started. I'm going to have everybody wooing out here. But I used to think, man, because his hair was like always perfect and all that. I don't know what they put on their hair. I guess it was some sort of pomade on top of the perm. But he always had that look. But people don't want you to know. That he hosted a TV show. And I believe he was the first Black man to ever host a TV show. Like the Emancipation Proclamation, hundreds of years old, right? And we're still in the 1980s and 2000s getting our first black president. What year was that? Was that 2008? Our first black and female vice president. 2020? I don't understand it. And so for these types of reasons, I believe that Black History Month is so important. But I don't think it should be a month. I think we need to teach these things on a level to where when they talk about David Crockett, which everybody knows, there are people who will dispute it, but history shows us the people that we call the fathers of this country, they were not all horrible men, right? Some of them were crooks and criminals, possibly all of them, but they all had their past. And to try to make the nation out to be perfect and to try and make it out to be free of sin, me personally, I know I'm going to get some kickback on this, but as I go through Black History Month, when I think of a lot of the ancestors, when I think of a lot of those men, I honestly get a picture of Donald Trump with a wig on and wearing a waistcoat with tails, walking through the halls of Congress. That's the kind of character a lot of these men had, right? Maybe they weren't as big of liars as Donald Trump. Maybe for their day they weren't as horrible as him. But that's the picture that I start to get when I hear about people saying, well, we don't want critical race theory taught in our schools. Here it is. I'm here to tell you, from everything I've ever been told by anybody who's taken critical race theory, that's not what they've been teaching in schools. That's not it. They want to teach a history that's not glossed over or that's not whitewashed. What was the term you used, Jason? What was the term you used instead of whitewashed?
A better term I like is sanitized.
Sanitized. We don't need anybody. And I thank God for forward thinkers like Carter G. Woodson so that we don't sanitize our history in this country because it's not being always what it's taught. And let's talk another thing about Black History Month. Another thing that a lot of people don't understand, there were white people who were abolitionists. It wasn't just black people, because I'm going to tell you now, black people couldn't do it by themselves. Just like today, we can't stop it by ourselves. We have to have people from the other side. There has to be, this is a community effort. That's another thing I love about Black History Month, because if you dig into Black history, if you dig into the history of the African in America, if you dig into the history, you'll find that they wanted freedom for themselves. They wanted, and they want rights, or we want freedom for ourselves. We want rights for ourselves. But check this. This is the beautiful thing. We also want the same freedoms and the same rights for everyone else, for anybody who is marginalized. We want the same freedoms. Ain't that amazing? I mean, think about, how does that make you feel? We live in a society where a lot of times we're being defamed and oppressed, and yet instead of only demanding the rights for ourselves, we're demanding it for everyone. How does that make you feel?
I mean, but I think that goes to the sympathetic nature of, I know what it's like to be oppressed, to be mistreated, and instead of just being like, okay, that selfish self-centeredness, I think about, like, how can we benefit all, right? not just to one, but how do we benefit the all in the changes that we're looking for and the things that we're demanding.
Because like I get a little too excited when I talk about this stuff, but man, I mean, again, we're talking about first. I'm gonna always stay on top of it. There's a woman. Most people don't even know. There's a woman, and because I live in this whole tech world, I understand. But I don't even know how to say this lady's name. Her name is Lisa. Jill Lauber, whatever, something like that. Jill, and I apologize, I can't say her name very well. I never could. I read about her in one of my classes. That she helped develop the technology that we use now for web or internet animation. This was a black female. This was in 1995. This is around the time when I first started getting exposed to computer networking, working on a Novell system. I believe it was 4.11, where I got my first certification as a certified network associate with Novell. And here's a black woman who was light years ahead. She helped develop the technology for the software. Was called Shockwave. It was real big back then. You don't hear about it at all anymore now because the technology has just grown. But I mean, we have so many to look up to in society, in this world that we live in, and we're just not. What's the word I'm looking for? It's like we're not getting it from our schools, and I thank God for Black History Month because it puts an emphasis on our contributions to this world. I mean, it's not so much about we're oppressed. Being black in America is not only about being oppressed. I think being black in America, to me, that's actually, maybe you can help me out with this. I think being black in America is more about overcoming than just about being oppressed. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's about the history, the change that we're effectively trying to have and trying to make. So no, I think there's more to being black in America than just the oppression part of it. Now, it is a big part because it continues, but it's not the only part.
Right, and see, and I think I think you just hit on something. I know we're about to close out in just a few minutes, everybody, but hang in there with me for just a second because I think. I got a text from somebody, and it talks about that he said that if they keep us from being recognized, then we'll remain insignificant. So if the main argument in America amongst our kids and amongst us as a population is that we need black rights, if that's all you hear. We're also teaching our kids that, you know what, you're oppressed. You're going to have to fight for your rights, but you can overcome. But here it is. Because we keep singing the same old tune, our kids never get to see the progress. And if we don't have Black History Month to show us the progress, to use as a gauge that this is where we started, this is where we are, then we're going to have a harder time in the future. So I want to say that for me, Black History Month is extremely important, and that without it, honestly, there's going to be a lot of untold stories. There are going to be a lot of our history that's going to be whitewashed, that's going to be covered up, that's not going to be conveyed to us. And when we keep our history suppressed, and it's whitewashed, and it's gone, then we do a great injustice to ourselves and to all of our kids. And with that being said, J. Dub, we're about to close out. Man, you got any closing comments for us tonight?
No, just let's learn our history and realize how great we are.
learn our history and realize how great we are. You know, with that being said, I think you're 100% right. But I am going to say, let's learn our history. Yeah, it's great to know how great we are. It's great to know how great our ancestors are. But I want us to pick up on it. I want us to pick up the mantle and let's move forward. You know, my challenge to everybody, you know what? Pick up a book. It's okay to read about these things. It's okay to teach about these things. It's okay to learn about these things because the fact of the matter is we're never going to advance as far as we can advance by being, what? Ignorant. And what is ignorance? Ignorance is just simply not knowing, and it's important that we know where we come from so that we can keep a gauge and keep an eye on where we're going. You know, you just think of ourselves as bamboo trees, right? Our height determines our depth. Our depth determines our height. You know, it's just like with the foundation of a building. You know, how deep is this foundation going into the ground actually has an effect on how high you can build that building up in the air. So let's be like the bamboo tree. Let's grow deep first, and then we'll grow up afterwards. Because I'm telling you, our depth determines our height. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and close everything out they do. I just want to say, everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. But God is good to us, and we ought to show our gratitude by passing down our heritage. And if you don't know your heritage, pick up a book. You know, Reading Rainbow. That's where I got that from. Okay, thank you, LeVar Burton. So with that being said, I just want to say, as we close out tonight, find something you love, chase it, embrace it. That is your relentless pursuit. And this is Sedric and Jason. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week. God bless you. God keep you.
True, too. What's up, DB? I think we're going to make them swag it after this one. Yeah. They going to dance to this. Oh, I can see it. Yeah. Give me some love. Give me respect. Give me my God. Give me some space. Give me your blessing. Dance like you holy. Give me some love. Give me respect, give me my God, give me some space, give me your blessing. Dance like you holy. You say you're real with it, so real with it. Then you make your big gun chillin' it. Cause the dickers you don't know who you're dealing with. Show me some respect, cause I ain't cleaning with the silliness. Surrounded by the fake, you don't really get it. Never compromise for some dividends. I did it before, but I never will again. Asking God for the forgiveness for my sins. I'm a child of the king, yes, I'm a child of the king. The devil can shatter my dreams. Good ground is where I'm a seed, yeah. I got plenty muscle, grinding in the hustle. Been in the struggle, been in the dungeon, but only a chick for the lunches. Homie, the road with the punches. All people perish for the lack of knowledge. Why you think we are trying to violence? College, it ain't for everybody. Some intelligence, stack your wallet. I been real, told you I'm cold like a windshield. Roll with a big wheel, spinning like windmills, and we will. Give me some love, give me respect. Give me my God, give me some space, and give me your blessing. Dance like you holy. Give me some love, give me respect. Give me my God, give me some space, give me your blessing. Dance like you holy.
Everything they do is in love. If you close and I can see the pose. I told you. They act so holy, act like they don't know me. Mess up my energy, offensive, religiously, unevenly yoked. They don't mix with my chemistry. Real profit out of pocket, speaking in riddles all off topic. Planning starships and rockets, spinning the word bicycle sprocket. What is your option, heaven or hell? So what I dwell will I prevail. If it's done to get it close, I am a saved by the bell. Purposely ordained to carry today. Baptized in the joy and pain, not a slave, turning the pain. Toss a car, breaking the tape. Chopping it out like I get to it, ain't easy being true to all that go. Fill the room, now I'm attacking all of these. Should I continue? I think it's all needed. Like the opinion, give me a minute. Everything good come from God. So I order off the me, you bop my head like the baby. Ain't no ifs, ands, or maybe. Keep on walking in the light while the rest be so safe. They can love me, hate me, the blood is thicker than gravy. Two on the word, better take that. Shocking, amazing grace covers the room, ready, set. Boom, he ain't dead, you heard what I said, the living bread, go check the tune. The bridegroom's returning soon, gang.
Give me some love, give me respect. Give me my God, give me some space, and give me your blessing. Dance like you holy. Give me some love, give me respect. Give me my God, give me some space, give me your blessing. Dance like you holy.